Well, a lovely morning once again to all of you who are watching UBC, and good morning Uganda. Thank you so much for keeping UBC a TV of your choice. Now remember, we do come to you Monday to Friday, that is 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and we do take you through a couple of aspects. We look at your current affairs, we take you through what's trending in the papers, we give you sports updates, but we also take time in our GMU agenda to look at a matter of national concern. Now today in our GMU we'll be looking at stimulating economic development in Uganda, but of course considering a couple of aspects. But we must also understand that Uganda is expected to have a record growth of at least 6.3% in 2018-2019 fiscal year, now up from at least 2018 according to the International Monetary Fund. In a statement, the fund attributes this to robust activities in the manufacturing, construction and service industry. Now, of course, the IMF also said that Kampala's inflation is expected to stabilize at around 5% over the next 12 months. Now, thus reaching the threshold set by the central bank. Of course, looking at the same, let's take a look at this report, which was at least before we dive into our discussion. Now, later when we come back, we'll be introducing our guests, but let's take a look at this video.
Uganda is expected to have a record growth of 6.3% in the 2018-2019 fiscal year, up from 2018, according to the International Monetary Fund, IMF. In a statement, the fund attributes this to robust activity in the manufacturing, construction and services industry. The IMF also said Kampala's inflation is expected to stabilize at around 5% over the next 12 months, thus reaching the threshold set by its central bank. According to the Bretton Woods Institution, the East African nation badly needs a sustained economic growth rate to help generate healthy revenues to defray its ballooning public debt. Uganda's finance ministry says the country's debt stands at 41% of its gross domestic products. Its central bank, however, said its public indebtedness has already topped 50% of its economic output.
Well, of course, that's what was reported in the same report by the IMF. Now we must look at this. But of course, with us in studio to give scrutiny and attention, an in-depth discussion of the same topic is that is the Peace Service Ambassador, that is Kambura Milton. Ndugu, you're welcome.
Ndugu, habari gani leo papa?
Sawa sawa.
Ndio tuko kwa East African integration. Asante kabisa. Thank you for hosting me again, and I look forward to share the status of our economy and how it relates to transformation of this country going forward in terms of also lowering the cost of doing business. That's our core business, our core focus.
Okay.
I think for this year and also next year, according to the president of this country.
Now we see that Uganda is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and this is at 6.5% growth rate per year. Now the question is the current state of the economy. Let's start with that. What is the current state of the economy?
I'm very happy to report Ugandans that Uganda is one of the fastest growing economies in the world at a speed of 6.3 to 6.5% per annum. That report was produced by IMF and also World Bank. It correlated a little bit, but also African Development Bank 2018 report indicated the same. But very wonderfully, World Bank added that Uganda is the most preferred destination for foreign investments 2017, 2018, and probably we could actually maintain the same record 2020, 2021. I think this is attributed majorly because of the economic and the political stability, the security part of it. Uganda has really is determined to protect its borders. There is a lot of security, no more rebel activities going on, ADF. Those are the things, of course, investors look at. But also, there has been a little bit of improved human resource performance, indicating that majority of the people are also getting interested in opening businesses. urbanization, as the report has indicated. The Kampala alone really attributed more than 8.9%. You can imagine. Tourism, you realize all these are really critical areas where we actually even get money from abroad, from our workers from abroad. They also 6.8%. So at least there is something coming in, including these young stars, the talents in our country. They're also bringing in. Agriculture is still continuing to improve. So less a little bit, of course they can talk. The other friends of ours can talk, but the economy will continue growing no matter the challenges available.
Speaking about the economy, Ndugu Kambura, you realize that on top of all this being in place, at the end of the day it will make no sense if all productions are done, industrialization is present, the economy, they say the economy is booming, but what is the purchasing power of the people of Uganda? Can they later on purchase what is produced? Can they consume? The consumability of the population, is it responsive to the growing economy?
Because of our liberal economic management policies in place, of course several other countries don't have these. It's the engine why we are moving very well. The purchasing power of Ugandans has really increased for the last 4 years. And now you can imagine Ugandans are ready to purchase. That is key, both products and even the services. The service industry is actually matching the production industry. That's wonderful. Service industry 10 years ago was no more. It was not contributing even 10% to our GDP.
Maybe just to clarify, what do you mean when you talk of the service industry here in Uganda?
The service industry are those intangible sectors, like of course telecom, you can't see the product, you know, but when we talk about products, these are cars, you know, but now service industry, tourism, there is a lot of money coming in, more than $200 million, around 200 plus something is coming in. That's alone from basically tourism alone. When you talk about the telecom company, they are doing amazingly in the country. The hotels, you are talking about transport, you know, service, you know, there are a lot of security itself, these security providers, services. And Ugandans are kind of, you remember when we used not to buy Rwenzori mineral water, this water, because we used to actually boil our water in the village. They change in behavior in terms of consumption. Ugandans are now spending more money actually even to buy even drinking water, you can imagine. And all these trickle down to supporting these companies pay tax, for example. The housing industry, real estate, is a new whole sector in the country. The energy sector, solar energy, companies, we have more than 25 big companies dealing in solar energy.
Milton,
and up-country people are buying.
To get you right also, when we look at this tremendous economic development as stated, of course some have come to refute these figures, but are we seeing the Ugandans themselves steering this development, or is it foreign dominated? Because statistics sometimes can give another picture. That yes, our economy is growing, and I wouldn't want to refute that. But the starers of this development are people from other countries that are having industries here. When you go to the real estate, that you're going to have mega people come in this country, billionaires, and invest in this real estate. When you go to hotels, how many of these hotels are talking about in the service industry? Telecom, where are the local people in the development chain of this process? Remember, our roles in terms of profit repatriation are also not that very good. So this could be a threat in one way or the other. You think you're developing, but you're being developed by other people who take profits back to their country. In case of any wave, they're able to migrate to another country.
Yeah, I think just like the African economies, it is a threat that when we balance our BOP, for example, when we balance our export versus our imports, that problem is still outstanding, and we need to really close it, because the economies we are talking about are economies that are built by a lot of shareholding of foreign direct investments. And so the way we also actually calculate our GDP, World Bank has to accept us as Africa to also develop our own formulas. Like India, they have actually cancelled the use of Einstein theory in calculating the performance of banks, of several other institutions, and even the economy. So what do I mean here is not just getting our purchasing power, our per capita income, then divided by a certain those formulas, but then going to the people in the village. That's where the economy is determined from, because they are the ones that produce the food. They are the ones that actually activate and utilize the factors of production, like land. Us in the city are consumers.
Which people are talking about Kambura currently,
yes,
if you are to measure sensible development,
yes,
in my opinion, you have 60% of the population that are in subsistence agriculture. They're not productive. Right. They're not contributing to the success we're talking about.
You are very right.
You only have 40% of Ugandans that are engaged in commercial agriculture.
Yes.
Therefore, even the agricultural industries you're having are entirely owned by foreigners.
Yes.
So these policies and these calculation methods, aren't they giving a lie to
Actually, maybe even just in addition, before Kambura, you come in, your preamble does give a very good picture of where we stand as an economy in relation to our current status. But isn't it worrying, if I may ask? And the reason why I ask this, I'll say, let us just take a stroll look at one of the most important sectors in every economy. Let's look at the banking sector. How many banks in Uganda, count them, over 20 banks, is owned by Ugandans? I stand to be corrected if there's any. By far, or by shareholding, or by majority shareholding, any. Let's look at industrialization. How many industries in this country are by shareholding majority owned by Ugandans? Now, and just to mention, but if let's look at the biggest hospitals, let's look at all these kind of investments. Now, this poses a very big challenge. That would mean that the economy may look what we call prima facie, doing well.
Yeah.
You know, it will look doing well. It is a very beautiful bride here you have, very smart, nice, but so much makeup. When you remove the makeup of the picture of Uganda's economy, you will be shocked that at least 70, if not 90% of what the profits are made in Uganda are not retained in Uganda. So do we have these figures right? Just also to bring to your notice, are you aware that Uganda is the third poorest country in the world amidst all these chants and praises of the economy? So do we have meaningful? We may have a good picture, as you said. So many industries. Look at Namambe now. Wow.
Yeah.
We're looking at the Chinese flock in Uganda. We're looking at banks opening up, ABCD. But let's look at and you said it yourself.
I think, Felix,
let us shift from the mediocre, the formative way of finding out 1 + X+. No. Let's look at the livelihoods of Ugandans.
I like that.
Look at livelihoods of Ugandans vis-a-vis the picture of the economy.
Yes.
Is it the true picture of where we stand?
I have to, because statistics do not lie. When we compile our villagers and we recognize that we don't have actually more than 10 millionaires in a constituency, it indicates a figure, it indicates a direction of our economy. When we find 10 billionaires or millionaires in a constituency, it also directs us to a different indicator. Now, these figures don't lie. When we can go back, usually statistics, you challenge it by going back. You realize from 1971, let us say, to 1980, around 85, before Mosaic came, look at that period. Uganda's GDP was 5.6 billion. You can imagine. That was the economy. The money that you and me can go to Serena and we just share on a break tea, you can imagine. That was the economy. And vis-a-vis Kenya, because many people usually misquote this, what was the performance of Uganda versus Kenya? But Kenya was much higher because it was more an industrialized sub-region in the continent of Africa. So what do I mean? Is that time we were exporting more of raw materials. And it was more of an expense to us to maintain, for example, this coffee, those things that they closed. We are spending more by that time. Look now, from 1990 our time, our GDP, you know what, the boom, that one, we call it a boom in economics. Now, what attributed to that boom was between 1986 to 1989, that was a structure. They call them one, the SCPs of the World Bank, which guided us to liberalize our economy, to actually bring in privatization, to build a private sector-led economy. By that building, the foundation backed up by the security infrastructure, now some people started now investing, saving, opening up small businesses. That is now the dividends of that time. The foundation is what we see today. And the level of urbanization, where we are talking about Mbarara, for example, Kampala, we are talking about Arua, we are talking about Jinja now, is also coming up. Though many people seem to misdirect Jinja on a certain frustration level. Whatever we were doing in the Jinja definitely was good, but now we have to industrialize it further to now export finished products than the cotton we used to put in the plains. You can imagine the sequencing. Now, answering your question is that today we are talking about a speed of 6.5% per annum, a speed rate. That rate is measured in determining on how much you are achieving a certain global economic level of competence in the playground of economics. Now, World Bank telling you that you are doing well in terms of your economic performance, it is not a lie, because they base on certain indicators over a period of time, plus the reducing capacity of poverty levels. Because 10 years ago, our poverty levels was 38%. As we speak today, it's 19.8%. Though the prices are increasing based on international economic determinants like fuel, changes in fuel, which also influences pricing of other commodities, because you need to fuel those cars, you need to put fuel in the generator or whatever. Electricity is not enough also. Roads are not yet constructed in all parts of the country. So we are talking about that we are improving, and this improvement is consistent. If we maintain it,
let's
we
just
will
look at
be able to
the
achieve
improvement, Ndugu Kambura.
Yes, sir.
When you talk about economic improvement or perhaps economic growth, and there are what we call indicators, as same indicators also highlighted by IMF and of course the World Bank and the African Bank, a couple of researchers there. Let's look at aspects like managing. How many Ugandans are able to manage economic growth? Let's look at the retention rates. How many people can get money and can retain this money over probably a period of 5 years in the same economy, or what you call a growing economy? Third, let's look at the ratio of the poor,
income inequality,
and the rich.
Yes.
Exactly. Now, it is in Uganda where you see that the poor, actually the rich, the people who own or who are considered to be rich, own 70% of what is prioritized to be the wealth in the country. So when you say that Uganda is wealthy, you're talking about only 10% who own 70% of the wealth of the country.
Actually, Felix, personally, I have always had a challenge and a problem with the figures.
Just a moment, Robert. And
used to arrive at this.
If I explain this, that it means that Kambura here and maybe Robert own wealth in this country that can be shared among at least maybe another 2 million people. Now, that cannot give us an arrival to people who are changing with the economy. You'll have a Chilabo Robert who owns, or who probably has about 50 billion.
Yes.
Now, how many Ugandans should share of this 50 billion?
Yes.
Now, are these indicators of economic growth or economic stalemate?
To show you, because we usually use what we call evidence-based indicators.
Clearly.
Yes. When I was in my village, for example, let us now go from this studio and go to where we come from, in our village. You will realize that statistics don't lie if they are coming from an independent researcher. 10 years ago, in my village, which is Karambi village, we used to have every 100 houses, among those 100 houses, 80 of them were grass thatched. I will just use those indicators so that our viewers who are listening to us today appreciate that the economy of Uganda is growing. 10 years ago, today, now what used to be that grass-thatched community, right now, every 100 houses, only just 10 grass-thatched houses. Where I come from, I will use the example. Kampala, or Uganda Karambi. You go to Chigezi, you will see the same evidence. You come to central Uganda, the same evidence. You have been going even deep in the villages where you will see there is change over a period of 10 years. But does this mean the money is in the pocket?
That's my question.
The demographics and theories of literature on economics dictate that you must not allow people to keep liquid money into their pockets. It simply means, though we are crying, but the people a little bit get the money and spend it in investments, in things of basic life, like shelter, like food, like education.
But that's why
those are the indicators.
I beg to get
yes,
it clearly. First, personally, the formulas used to arrive to these figures, I want to believe as Africans or as developing countries should develop our own formulas. I was happy when you said India developed their own formulas that reflect not only the wealth of the many making huge figures, the wealth of the few making huge figures, therefore being yardsticks to credit development of particular areas, but looking at the livelihood of the many. Those are formulas you should look at. Kambura, when you talk about people starting business, statistics have also shown that in Uganda, many of the started business do not live to see their first birthday.
Yes.
That people start, but because of the high revenues, because of the high costs of doing business, these businesses collapse. The few that we cling to are of people that are even renowned for being in the business circle. So this imbalance makes me believe that we are missing a point in that we arrive at
the conclusion
of this statistic that we are proud of today.
I want to share with you, with the Ugandans listening to us today, that there are factors that affect or determine or that help stimulate economic performance in a nation. One of which will answer your question. When we reduce the cost of doing business in a country, you stimulate SMEs, the performance of those small businesses to thrive. For example, if corruption is in a nation, because corruption actually impedes performance of businesses, it increases the expenditure of someone who has 100 shillings to open a business. You realize you have to first spend 50 million to actually on corruption, to bribe a few people. The factors of production, like registration, the time it takes to register a company. The high taxes, because high taxes don't help companies to grow. And that's why the whites, there was a friend of mine, a senator in the United States, and he ably told us in a conversation, in a workshop, and he said, yes, whereas African nations are coming here and seeking for donations, yes, we are giving them these donations. And we are telling them in a period of 10 years, you must pay. But when they reach here, they have to increase taxes to convince the Muzungu that we have capacity to repay the debts. And so they say, how will these people build the economy? Another thing is corruption, which I told you is a cost. We have many leaks. We put into the lake, you have a jerrycan with many holes. As you pour water, the water is coming out. We don't retain financing. We don't retain wealth in the economy, in the nation.
About the same thing, and the explanation is quite important, and that statement shared by your senator friend is very true. And I will tell you that when you talk about corruption, one of the things we are going to look at later, but let's look at it probably now, that in countries like Uganda, some of the greatest impediments, challenges that are cast towards economic growth is corruption. And I'll tell you why. Corruption in itself increases the debt burden of a country. You and me know that the most previous budget, our budget is supposed to finance over 20% of it, supposed to go into debt repayment. Now, you can imagine that the country is left with only 80% to cut out let us look at the aspect of inflation. You talked about real estate. It is only in this country that, Robert, you will buy a plot of land in January at probably 50 million, and you're able to sell the same plot of land in December, in a span of 12 months, at 100 million. What is the cause? That people who are corrupt have gotten money not worked for too much, and they have to hide it in real estate. You must know that this is the cause why we see the real estate business. People think it is booming, yet it is actually being bastardized.
Yeah, yes, and I will agree with you. Corruption is provides the leaking. There are leaks within the economy. I accept, but when we go and seek for a donation or a loan, in that case, but the question: how are we investing this loan? We are investing it in infrastructure and other sectors, so that we actually help to build the infrastructure that will enhance the productivity of the economy, reduce on the cost of doing business. Because you realize that 10 years ago, transporting your food from Karambi to Kampala would rot on the road. Now you have a road that will transport your raw materials from wherever they come from this country, to the factory in maybe industrial area, just in 24 hours.
And I'll tell you,
7 hours.
that is very true.
That's
I'm not in doubt.
yes.
But now, Kambura, the problem again brings us the same thing. The roads are being done, transport is eased, but when you bring to the foreign producer, they'll take the profits. So what's the difference?
Those are leaks. Now let me now discuss the macro aspects of all those aspects.
Kambura, before you come to the micro aspects of these,
maybe just, Robert, let me just inform our viewers that you can call in and be a part of our discussion to contribute or ask a question to our guest, or even for any of us who's in the studio about our topic. We're looking at stimulating economic development in Uganda. You can be a part of our discussion. Call on the number 0702 23 24 25. Yes, Kambura.
My colleague was mentioning some of the things that make it very hard to understand these developments, much as we are seeing a number of achievements. One of the steers of development is supposed to be that people have what they are doing. I don't know if you are aware of our unemployment rate, at which level they are standing.
Yes, yes. Our unemployment is
a huge number of people.
It's a national security crisis, actually.
National security crisis?
Yes. Okay,
a huge number of potential people out, unemployed, doing nothing to the economy. And then, to make matters worse, that's why I'm like that some of these formulas, I just wonder how we arrived to this changes. My colleague was telling you that even opportunities that they should be given to be contributors to the development, you're having loans that are not being paid very well. People are stealing money left, center, central. But the figures are showing we are developing. How do you match the two and bring sense into someone to understand?
I think what we need to do...
There's unproductivity.
Yeah, the problem is actually very clear. Corruption, as you say. But not only corruption, because also corruption is in America. Corruption even it is a global actually issue. It's not just in Uganda.
But the magnitude differs.
Yes, the type.
That's why we see Kenya made sensible reforms to fight corruption.
Yes, it did. But just like Uganda, we also have frameworks that are being established to fight corruption. Fighting corruption is a going concern. And our viewers will not just sit there and say Museveni is the one only to fight corruption, or he's Honorable Lokodo, Simon. Corruption is supposed to be actually everyone's work from the family level. What are you doing to nurture children of good character? Because they are the ones going to build this country. As a LOC1, what are you doing to nurture patriotism among Ugandans in your community? What about you, the religious leader? What about you, the business person? Which best practices are you putting in place in your company to enhance workers of ethics, of innovations? So that is everyone. That's a macro problem which we need all of us to solve, so that we build companies of the future.
So just so you take through our viewers, you said you are talking about the macro problem and how it is...
these issues, because we want our discussion should be more on how do we stimulate the economic performance of a nation using the latest data we have as institutions. Look, any country intending to build a vibrant economy must reorganize the sectors of the country. That is very key. The moment we are disorganized,
sectors that like?
I will use, for example, agriculture, because that's our eminent sector, which employs more than 68% of our people. But look, its impact on the GDP is simply 12%.
And who's to be blamed for that?
Now it simply means you have a chunk of millions of people in agriculture, but not impacting the economy. What do you do as a government, as a nation? Is to reorganize that sector.
Do we see that happening?
I'm going to use
Uganda?
that sector alone. Then we go to another sector, we see.
Okay.
For example, let me use an example of Germany. Germany 20 years ago, it realized its capacity, they call it benefit cost analysis, that what are we best at compared to other nations. It looked at industrialization, manufacturing industry. What it did was to reorganize the agriculture sector, where the inputs of industries come from. You realize that now? Now, our viewers need to know that we cannot move forward without reorganizing the agriculture sector. What do we need to do is to make sure, first of all, we register all our farmers. Because people are out there and they say, this thing you're talking about, we don't need it.
Why?
You want to take our land.
Why do you want
Like
us?
the farmer, how do we register farmers?
What would be the use?
Germany had to register all its farmers. When they registered all the farmers, they now realized the gaps each farmer is facing. Lack of skills, they lack the technology, they lack this innovation, they had to even actually establish what we call community agricultural institutions to build the capacity of farmers to improve on the farming methods so that they can actually have the best meat on the market, the best milk on the market. What are we talking about here? We are talking about regulating the whole agricultural sector, not just registering coffee farmers only. I'm talking about all farmers and also registering the quality of soils. What best grows where? Are you getting? Which skills for who? Which type of farmers? It was a holistic reorganization of the agricultural sector to the extent, my brother, that in Germany, the meat you eat in a restaurant, you will know which farmer association in which village that meat is coming from.
The producer.
And the factories are not in urban centers. Factories are in their villages. I am talking about a revolutionary focus where we are taking these factories back to the villages, electricity back to the villages, good roads back to the villages, and packaging. Then the factories are producing packaging, all this, for export, not just the products from Kampala.
No, I think
as a country, Uganda, you've made several interventions geared towards
they are
that.
in the paper. Most of them are in the paper. Colleagues, you'll agree. But what I'm talking about on this national television with the opportunity you have given me is a revolutionary action-based orientation. And it requires leaders who are really exposed to these international trends. And so for us to improve and or increase on our export potential, we must make sure we galvanize, we mobilize ourselves, we have the right quantities required at the international market for our regional consumption, but also the quality matters. But this to be achieved, we must reorganize the thinking towards agriculture.
No, hello, I think we have a caller. Hello? Hello, caller. Hello? Yes, sir. Can you tell us your name and where you're calling from?
We've lost that.
Hello? Well, I think we lost that call. Let's take another caller. Hello? Hello? Well, yes, please. Can you tell us your name and where you are calling from?
Yes, hello.
Hello? Hello, we can hear you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, I'm calling from India. I really like this show.
Thank you so much.
I think really we should give a big hand up to the NRM government. Trying to educate the farmers, to improve the farmers, to empower the farmers economically. Okay. Thank you very much for the show.
Thank you so much for calling there and from Ginger.
Thank you.
Now, Talking about farmers and empowerment, and that is something we shall look at there, but let's take one more caller before we can come back to what Milton was trying to explain to us. Hello? Hello, can you tell us your name and where you're calling from? Yes, Mayanja from Mokono.
One thing I think is this regime of entitlement is that for them, I think they just look at something which is earning more money, and then they want to start it there. Like now, I'm asking about this law of fish, whatever, of fishing and fish marketing. So this fisherman law, I don't know how to tell it to you.
Yes.
But you see that law, it was made, but it is not helping Uganda. It is helping foreigners. Even that law, that law they want to say that you register for coffee. I accepted what the views my brother in the middle was saying, because he said that they should look at the overall farming, not only coffee. They brought moringa, they brought vanilla, now they are down. They should bring everything up so that they get money. Let's look at the thing which people are now getting, which people have just brought out themselves, and then they want for them to come and just get money from it.
Okay.
Just put in anything.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mayanja from Mokono.
Thank you.
Anthony there for calling. Yes, let's take one more caller since we missed the first one and we come back to studio. Hello? Hello? Well, we will get your calls as they come through now. And previously, before you come to the callers, Milton, you did make a very, very valid point that I actually buy when you talk about registration of farmers.
Yes.
Because it would give identity and also promote quality.
Exactly.
We have seen this being done, but not as a fosterance of the government.
Yes. And the problem is basically having wrong people in managing these sectors. You cannot bring, I will make this comment, it's a revolutionary comment. You cannot bring down some villager somewhere to come and be an OC, police station officer,
in Kampala,
in the heart of Kampala, where the type of crimes committed on Nasa Road are completely different from my village, Karambi. So we need to really think as a nation. It's no longer just my brother who's looking for a job or my sister. We need to bring competent, skilled, innovative, patriotic citizens who can manage these sectors. Because when you have the wrong people in those places, they don't think like the way I'm thinking. You just give me 2 months, you will see results. You will just see. I don't need to be paid. My pay is based on the outcomes of what I'm doing. And so, colleagues, we need to, in a revolutionary way, change where things are moving. Kenya is doing the same. Kenya, if you see Kenya, already the pipeline, you know what I'm talking about. Already they have harvested millions of dollars, while some of the politicians are frustrating the government in the exploration of our oil. And so we must leave politics out and bring and help to nurture an economy that is even above politics.
Let's just a minute, but let's look at the callers here. Now, we did see there from Ginger, a caller from Ginger, who said that we must applaud the NRM government. It has tried so much to push for farming. That is, of course, is subjective. But also look at Mayega from Mayanja, from Mokono, Anthony there, who made a very good point when he said that the absence of a good legal regime towards farming.
Now, let me just break it down. The legal framework to provide an enabling environment for local entrepreneurs to grow and expand. That one is sweet. I want to let you know that South Korea is now one of the biggest 20 in having among the top 20 biggest economies in the world. They did that. Deliberate effort was done to raise a local entrepreneur. That one is key. What are we doing to develop a policy to defend that local mwananchi who has a business idea? Are we doing that? We are not doing it yet. Look, we have a land policy that is too much. It is an escape kind of, you are not sure whether even your business on land is safe. You have a Kabaka policy, you have a government policy, you have Manyaten, you have a lot. This is only in Uganda, in the whole continent of Africa. Uganda is the only country with the two parallel policies on land. How sure are you that a businessman will trust such a law to input his billions of money on such a land where you are only telling him ogula kunguru? This is where the discussion becomes tough. Ogula kunguru, 30 years lease. My friend who's listening to us today, we need to make hard decisions possible today for us to build an economy, a nation of the future. Because someone who has 1 billion is not thinking of 20 years from now. He's talking about a generation of businesses beyond even 200 years.
Kambura, don't you think that the problem of Uganda, compared to other countries you've talked about, is thinking that our economy is going to be developed by foreigners? All the policies, let's talk about Mayanja's policy on fishing. You see, when you go to the fishing sector in this country, much as you want to have a rebirth of the fish stock in our country, it is not favoring the locals. It is about investors who can do cage farming, and they're restricting.
Let's just take this caller. Hello, can you tell us who you are and where you're calling from?
Hello, I'm called Jonathan, calling from Weber, right?
Yes, Jonathan.
Yeah, for me, my whole point about this is that before those politicians come and preach about the well-doing of those countries in Germany, what? They have to first eliminate this thing of corruption. That's what those countries did.
Yes.
If you don't remove corruption, still those states will do all the shackles to support the farmers and still invest of the money. So it won't help in any way, even if they reject the farmers. And corruption is going to come into it. How will they help the coffee farmers?
Okay.
Yeah, corruption has come back.
If the whole system is failed, there's nothing they can do. They just have to end up nice from top to bottom and change the whole thing.
Okay. So, Jonathan, we must start with removing and eradicating corruption. Let's take another caller. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, can you tell us your name and where you're calling from?
yes, hello. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
You're talking to Kambura from Internet?
Yes, we can hear you.
You're talking to Kambura from Internet?
Come again, your name is?
You're talking to Ogwa from Internet?
Okay, Ogwa Entebbe. Yes, please. Please step away from your TV set when you call.
Okay, guess what? What I would like to put across. Yeah, now, yes, I did appreciate actually the discussions today.
Sorry, we lost you. Let's just take one last caller, then we come back because also our time. Hello? Hello?
Yes, brother.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Your name and where you're calling from.
My name is You see, brother, to make this point clear, for me, I think that this government is like scared. You know, if you plant something, if let's say banana, it reaches a time when it becomes bad if you don't care for it well. Like for instance, here in Uganda is where you can find when the minister or Mr. Museveni goes in some remote area and opens up a hospital, but within 2 months there is no medicine. What am I trying to bring up? Is that making a law in Uganda which favors the government or which brings money to the government is very quick and easy. They can just polish it, they
they put butter on it, and you see that it will help you. They say that if you register, you are going to be helping improving the coffee quality. In which way? Have they made these stores? Because long time ago, remember, like 25 years, 26 years old, our fathers and judges told us that the people had stores in the villages. They had people in the villages who are like, okay, who could follow that thing. You go like these other ministers and whatever, who could tell the people what to do. That you be drying coffee in this way. You see? But now they are wanting to bring out the law, but without putting anything on ground. How are they going to reach Bukunja? How are they going to reach Kasese? How is the information going to go? Or then they just want to pass the law, and then they give their officers to the village, they start arresting you. You are not doing that. You don't have this. And they want to also, I know those people, they want to also come up and say, now you should sell coffee to this one and this one. They give and regulate the price of the coffee. That is their aim. Not improving coffee. Because if they want to improve coffee and farming, they have got money, they have got money for many years. But for me, I've not even seen anything of money being sold outside Uganda.
Wow.
I don't think this thing is going to work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling and, of course, watching UBC, and for those very wonderful thoughts. Now, we had Jonathan from Arc right there, who did say, in all that we do, let us deal first with corruption. We cannot do much if we still have corruption. We also had a caller from Entewe there who we lost, but still, thank you so much for calling and being a part of the show. And yes, Ogwal. But lastly, we also had our last caller, I didn't get your name quite well, but when you made very sensible points, when you say that at least let us make sensible investments. If we start a project, let us see it through. But also policies that are not in reflection of the people on ground. An example, look at the bill, the sugar bill, look at the coffee bill, and very many laws that do they later on reflect what farmers actually go through. The excited motivation that government always says, do moringa, do vanilla, do... It is, let us have guidance that is sustainable. Yes, Kambura.
I think, I thank all of you for really participating in this conversation. The business person in Uganda is interested in three things. Reduce cost of doing business. Yes. That is number one. That one, government and all Ugandans, we must focus on that so that our businesses are profitable, not just working for free. You know, the moment you don't allow a businessman to make a profit and be able to retain that profit, then you are making him not to grow, not to employ more people.
It is useless investment.
Some countries have actually taken a revolutionary decision, say 2 years, no tax. But make sure you grow the business. Then, of course, public service will suffer. But we must make sure the investor, the entrepreneur is the king. In this country, politicians are worshipped. They kind of, in society, the most respected. But I want to let Ugandans know that the business entrepreneur, that young person with the talent, the person who's contributing tax to Uganda is the owner, the king of Uganda. Not this empty talk. They are the one feeding the country. And so we must protect them within the law. That is number one. Of course, I will talk about, of course, technology. We cannot talk about an economy in the 21st century without integrating the conversation of technology. You're a business person. How much are you investing in technology to enhance your marketing strategy? Because it's all about tapping global economy. Because you may be producing your simsim in Arua or your honey in Kitugum. But hey, Uganda is not the only country you are selling your products to. So enhance technology to enhance your marketing strategy. You are increased productivity, production in terms of numbers, but also quality. Because these products that are coming on our market, which are fake, are actually becoming too expensive to our lives. You can imagine. Now, you are spending this side, you also spend, you are making a small profit in terms of coming into our nation, but we also spend more money to treat the people. So,
lastly,
and
Kambura,
the last
our time
one,
is running short, but just
of
in a
course,
minute as you conclude.
Because of time, we must expand our markets. That is number one. Two, we must promote the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda program. Because for us, our security is not only in foreign investors. You, the Baruku, the Otim, the Baguma, the Chirabo, us, the Ugandans, must build our own economy. What does it mean? Buy Ugandan products so that the other person producing has the capacity to make a profit and have more branches.
Okay.
More branches means employment. More employment means prosperity of a nation.
Okay.
Then the last one, as I conclude, of course, we must sensitize Ugandans to improve on their attitude and mindset towards saving. We cannot talk about business without capacity to save. And so what does it mean? Attitude towards business. Many people are risk averse. People actually fear risk. This is my passion. I can't put it in a kiosk. My brother, we must learn how to expand money. In the Bible, there is the other talent, those three people whom God gave some
Talents.
resources. One buried it underground, another one nobody did the water, but the one who invested it and multiplied the seed was more blessed. So as a Ugandan, you have a talent. How are you actually expanding it and turning it into a business? Okay. And a business which is not guided by values is not going to help this country. As we are promoting business, let us also have a common shared vision toward the country, because it will nurture us to love the country and work for the country, but also shared values that unite us beyond tribalism, beyond religious fanaticism, radicalization, violence, complaining, politics, all that. Politics is actually frustrating business. I am talking about loving this country and contributing to the development of this country by paying tax.
Okay.
You can't pay tax without having a business. Make sure you have a business. Start small, but with a broader global perspective that you can become the richest man in the world. Yes, every beginning starts with a dream. Let's have one common dream.
Thank you so much, Ndugu Milton Kambura, the Service Peace Ambassador there. Now, of course, thank you so much, our viewers, for watching UBC and for always watching Good Morning Uganda. Now, I must remind you, we do come Monday to Friday. That is 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Now, it is a time where we must leave. And, of course, we will give you our quote for the day. But later, we'll also bring to you the updates in sports by Robin. Good morning.